All right, if you're a multi-cloud architect, you know the deal. The complexity is just off the charts. So today, we're going to tackle a huge pain point, one that I'm sure you've felt. How do you get a single unified view of a request when it's bouncing all over the place across different clouds? Let's dive in. Okay, let's paint a picture. It's 3 a.m., right? Of course it is. An alert goes off. Some critical revenue-generating request is failing. And you see it starts in AWS, then it hops over to Azure for a bit, then it hits a service in GCP, and poof, it dies. The clock is ticking. The pressure is on. Seriously, where do you even start?
And that right there, that's what I call the multi-cloud maze. It's that awful feeling of being totally lost in this labyrinth of logs where nothing connects, and you're just searching for a ghost.
You know the drill. You've got AWS CloudWatch in one tab, Azure Log Analytics in another, Google Cloud Logging in a third. Your screen is just a wall of terminals. You're frantically trying to correlate timestamps, maybe a user ID, anything to piece this story together. But it's like trying to solve a puzzle where every piece is from a different box. Each log is just one tiny, lonely clue.
So let's just call it what it is. The root of all this chaos, it's disconnection. Simple as that. In this multi-cloud world we live in, the old way of doing things, looking at logs in their neat little silos, it's just broken. It doesn't work anymore.
And look at this contrast. It's night and day, right? On one side, you've got the old way, siloed data, hours of painful detective work, and a mean time to resolution that is just frighteningly high. But on the other side, with a unified view, you get this incredible end-to-end picture. You're diagnosing problems in seconds, not hours. And this shift from being reactive to proactive isn't just some nice-to-have for engineering. No, this hits the bottom line. We're talking less downtime, which means protecting the business and keeping customers happy. Okay, so how do we fix this? How do we get from that absolute chaos to crystal clarity? Well, the answer is actually surprisingly simple. It's this powerful little concept called a correlation ID. I love this. I think of it as the golden thread.
So what is a correlation ID? Well, at its core, it's nothing fancy. It's just a unique string of characters. You'll often see it in a header, something like X request ID. The best way to think about it is like a passport for your request. The moment the request arrives, it gets this passport stamped, and then that passport is carried along through every single stop on its journey. Every microservice, every API call, every function. It doesn't matter if it's in AWS, Azure, or GCP. That passport goes with it.
And that is the big idea. We're not talking about ripping out CloudWatch or Azure Log Analytics, not at all. We're just giving them a common language to speak. This golden thread means you can just pull on it and the entire journey of that request, from start to finish, just unravels right in front of you. Okay. Sounds great in theory, right? But how do we actually do this? What's the practical pattern here? Well, let's walk through the architect's playbook for getting this done.
It really comes down to 3 simple but critical steps. Step 1, generate. The second a request hits the edge of your system, think your load balancer or API gateway, bam, you create a unique ID. Step 2, propagate. And listen, this one is non-negotiable. Every single downstream call has to carry that exact same ID in its header. I'm talking internal APIs, messages on a queue, you name it. And finally, step 3, log. You just configure every service everywhere to grab that ID from the header and stick it into every single log entry it creates. The secret sauce here? It's discipline. Every single part of your system has to play by the rules.
Now, if you do this, if you implement this pattern with real discipline, wow, the result is an absolute game changer. The payoff is just total visibility, the kind of visibility you've probably only dreamed of. Let's go back to that 3 a.m. nightmare. Only now, with this system, you're not a frantic detective fumbling in the dark for clues. No, you're an architect with a blueprint. You get the alert, you grab the correlation ID from the failed request, and you paste it into your search bar. And instantly, the entire story of that request, from AWS to Azure to GCP, is laid out for you, perfectly in order. Your role has fundamentally changed. And the impact on your metrics? I mean, just look at this. It's dramatic. Your mean time to resolution, or MTTR, plummets. We're not talking about shaving off a few minutes. We're talking about going from hours, maybe even days, down to minutes. And again, this isn't just about making our lives in engineering a bit easier. This is a huge win for the business. Less downtime means more revenue, happier customers, and a system that can actually withstand the complexities we throw at it.
All right, let's wrap this up and think about what you can do next.
So what are the big takeaways here? It really boils down to 4 simple rules. 1. Consistency is everything. Pick a header name like XRequestID and stick with it, everywhere. 2. Start at the edge. Create that ID the second that request walks in the door. 3. Propagate relentlessly. I mean it, never ever let a service drop that ID. And 4. Log universally. Every single system has to write it down. You nail these 4 principles and you've built yourself a genuinely observable system.
So I'll leave you with this thought. Once you've done this, once you've unified your logs and you can trace a request in seconds, you'll have tasted what it's like to break down a really painful silo. You'll feel that power. So the real question is, what's next? What's the next silo in your architecture that you're going to tear down?